Hi there and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to do, I guess, a third installment on WIA, so the Windows Image Acquisition Library. Now this is a library that's available to us. We have nothing to install. We simply get to enjoy it and exploit it to work with images. Now it is a powerful library because it allows us to do multiple things. I've done a video already on rotating images. I've done one on resizing images. Today I wanted to discuss flipping images. The one thing to be aware of, however, with WIA, I guess it's an older library and Microsoft hasn't really, I guess, updated it, or maybe there's proprietary reasons, I don't know. But we are limited in the image formats that WIA can actually work with. And those, if my memory serves me, are bitmap files, GIFs, JPEGs, PNGs, and TIFFs. Those are still the most common formats, so it's not like we can't work with just any images. But sadly, we can't use it to work with any of the newer formats either. And I'm specifically thinking of like the newer WebP format, which would truly be nice if we could get in WIA. I know I'm not holding my breath, I'm just saying. So with that out of the way, just a quick overview of WIA, I thought let's dive into how can we flip images easily using VBA, and in this case specifically using WIA. So using what's available to us already without having to go get external libraries, installing special software, or anything of that nature. So I have a database here, and you're going to see there's nothing in it except for 4 modules. So what I've done is I have my article. You're well aware, go on my blog. You can copy paste everything you're going to see here. And what I've done is I've taken the different functions from my article and I've simply pasted them in their own module just to keep them separate. So the first instance I'm going to look at with you guys is flipping an image horizontally. And you're going to see here every single function is set up the same way, because working with WIA for image manipulation is always basically the same process, the same approach. And that approach is, and as you're going to see, the code is minimalistic. There really isn't much to it at the end of the day. When you take out the error handler, the header, and things like that, the base code itself is very simple and straightforward. We always need to create 2 objects. We're going to create an image file object and we create an image process object. The image file itself is going to be when we load the initial image and the resulting image once we apply our process to it. So the image process is the manipulation. It could be the rotation. It could be the resize. It could be the, in our case, flip. Okay, that's the process we want to apply to the image file. So we start off by creating those 2 objects, and they exist and we can start using them. Then we move on here, and this is where we're actually defining the process. We're setting up, so we've set here, we've defined our object, and now we're saying what are the properties, what are the aspects of that property. So here we're adding a rotate flip filter, and then we're defining that filter as being a flip horizontal. So we're flipping the image horizontally, and we're setting that to true. If we set it to false, it would do nothing. And then here, then we take our WIA object and we're telling it, well, load our initial image. So this is the start image, basically. So we're telling it, load it into memory. Then we come here and we're saying, take the WIA and now apply our process to it. We're going to apply the process to our OWIA. So now we're redefining that object as the modified image object. And lastly, we're take that object now that we have the resulting image that's been processed and save it, output it, and we output it as our output image. Okay. And then at the very end, because we've gotten to this point, we know everything went smoothly. So we're saying that this function, the name of our function, because I've set as Boolean, is true. If an error occurred anywhere in this process, in this code, it would throw the error, which would bring us here, would have displayed an error message, and would have exited without ever seeing this line, so it would exit and return us as a false. And that's all there is to it. Regardless if you're flipping horizontal, vertical, both, it's always the exact same code, or at least the major lines, the flow of code. So create our objects, define our objects, load the image, apply whatever process we want to it, and save it. Let's look at this in function. Let's start off by looking at our initial image. So I have an image here on my desktop of a butterfly on a flower. Okay, so let's flip that guy horizontally. So I've prepared myself in advance so you don't have to see me just typing. So I'm taking my function, I'm saying my initial image is the image on my desktop, and then I'm saying I want an output. I'm going to output it in this case on my desktop. You can output it anywhere. And now I'm appending to it H, because we're going to flip it horizontally and as a JPEG. There you go. It returns true. We're happy. It worked. And there is that picture H. Let's open it up and look at what it's done. And as you can see here, it flipped the butterfly and the flower horizontally. So that worked beautifully. Let's go and look at the second example. Well, the second example is to flip it vertically. I should step back 2 seconds just to refresh your memory. Remember, the property we applied here was flip horizontal. In the case of the vertical now, it's the exact same code, but the property this time that we're going to exploit is the flip vertical. That's the only change in the code. So now we can come here, and instead of using my flip horizontal image function, we will use the flip vertical. And now we can change that to a V. We're flipping it vertically. Press enter, return true, so we know it ran properly. And here's my picture V. And now we can look at the flipped image vertically. Next, along the same lines, I said to myself, well, what happens if I want to flip both? You don't want to call one function and then call the other. It's not an efficient way of working. So let's create a function that allows us to do both simultaneously. Here you will notice that when we define the filter, the process that we want to apply, now I'm going to define a property of flip horizontal true, followed by a flip vertical true. So that image process now is going to do both at the same time. So now we can take this function instead of the flip vertical. I'll use my flip horizontal and vertical. And we'll just change the name of the output image. And as you see, it ran very quickly. WIA typically is very fast. Minimize that. Now we have just approve. We have an HV file. And in this case, it has flipped it not only vertically, but horizontally also. So now we have 3 functions that effectively work to flip it any which way we want. So let's I'm going to delete these images that we just created and come back here for my last module. This is all glorious. This works well. I want a function that's 100% versatile. I don't want to have to carry along 2, 3 different functions depending on the scenario I find myself in or my users need. I want a function that will work for any scenario. And it's very easy to achieve. So I'm now going to create a function that I called flip horizontal and or vertical image. And what it is it allows me to flip any which way I choose. I can do them independently or I can do them combined. How do I do that? It's simple. If we look at any of the previous functions that I've shown you, up until now at least, we've always only included the initial and the output images. We've never actually told the function what we were really trying to do. In this newer version, now I'm going to add 2 optional arguments that will tell the function what I'm wanting to do. And they are a Boolean for, do you want to flip the image horizontally? And the second one is, do you want to flip the image vertically? So they're true-false statements. By default, they're false. Okay? So by default, if we just run this guy without supplying any arguments, so we'll just do no args, and we press enter. It ran very quickly. It returns true. But if you look at the image, it didn't do anything because we didn't tell it to do anything. The Boolean here for flipping horizontal by default was false, and the Boolean for flipping vertically was false. So in effect, we didn't do anything. We didn't flip it horizontally or vertically. Nothing was done to the image. If, however, now we come here, and let's say we want to flip it horizontally, all we need to do is define that first argument here, the optional argument, flip horizontally, and set it to true. And now, when it runs, we get output a picture that was flipped horizontally. Just like the previous original function that I had shown you up here. But now we're telling it it's part of the arguments. If we wanted to flip it vertically, well then instead of being the first argument, we'd set the second argument to true. It ran, and now we have a vertically flipped image. Lastly, if we wanted to flip it both horizontally and vertically, well then we can achieve that as well by simply setting both arguments to true, running it, and now you have both horizontal and vertical flip in one operation. So there you have it, the basics of using Windows image acquisition to flip images. Ultimately, this is all you need. The other two were just to demonstrate, but in reality, this is the only function you'll ever need if flipping images is what you're after. I'll also just mention that you can combine multiple processes. So I've shown up until now using a rotation on its own. I've shown using a resizing on its own. I've shown using a flip on its own. I will do another video where we will incorporate them together to create basically a master function that you can simply have one function in your database and you can choose and select which process it applies, but all under the hood of one more powerful function, rather than having to necessarily have, I don't know, 3 or 4 separate ones. So I'm going to stop here. You now know how to flip images very easily using WIA. Just keep in mind of that limitation regarding to image formats. It can only work with 5 image formats if my memory serves. If you need to work with other image formats, well then you need to turn to other approaches. GDI plus, what was it, free image I've used. There's a couple of good alternatives out there. Check my blog. I already have articles on a lot of this already. Thanks a lot for spending a couple minutes of your day with me. As always, greatly appreciated. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, subscribe, and if you can promote my channel, my videos in any way on social media, on your blog, it would be greatly appreciated. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.